All right, I suppose we get started on this. So now, so sugar is our topic today, and I listened to part of this amazing podcast that I'm going to put in under the recording, so you guys have it. It is Sean Stevenson, I think is his last name. Autumn just interviewed him. He's the Model Health Show podcast. If you haven't listened to that podcast, highly, highly recommend it. He has a lot of ads and they're very convincing ads. So, I mean, just know that that's in there. But his information is really great and he goes into the science of things. But in listening to that podcast, I kind of realized I wanted to section this out. So we may end up doing this week and next week, depending on how much discussion we have or questions or what we want to learn about. So I tried to format it in a way that we can kind of get through certain points and then kind of go from there. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is just some history. And he actually lays out the actual history of sugar, like where it was being cultivated and then how it got on the it was one of the original 12 things on the NASDAQ or on the New York Stock Exchange. It wasn't called the NASDAQ then, probably the New York Stock Exchange as a commodity. So sugar has been a driver in our economy for a long time. And that basically as human beings, sugar tells our brain that there's an energy source and it's a calorically dense energy source. And so when it hits our brain and when we ingest it, we think energy. And so as we talk about this, we're going to talk about how sugar affects us physically and why you may have cravings and feel addicted to it because the addiction is real. And we'll talk about the different types, forms, things like that. So, and Beverly, I asked her to be on here because she has done a lot of research on sugars and the different types. And a lot of it was for health reasons. You had migraines, I believe, right? Or no, did someone else had, Mariana had sugar migraines. Yeah. So high fructose sugar migraines. And then Beverly has talked a lot in the past about like sugar alcohols. And so I don't know much about how those work and how, the types, but what I'm going to throw up here really quick is a graphic of all the names and we can start getting into the different types of sugars. And just because there's going to be your natural sugars, there's going to be refined sugars, there's going to be artificial sugars, artificial sweeteners, sugar alcohols. So let me share this list, and I'm sure this is not like the most complete list, but this is going to get us started. So let me get down here. So what we had talked about before is bringing labels too, and we can get to those in a little while about different sugars that are going to be in your ingredient lists. And Bev, just jump in anytime you want to say anything about anything.
Yeah, well, I don't know how many sugars you have there, but I have a graphic that has I've done a blog article. Well, I've done multiple blog articles on it, and but I have one that has 58
Okay, perfect.
of sugars.
And so maybe we can just link it into our recording and then we'll have it all in one place. That if you have a graphic or even your blog post would be great to link in there.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? So once I put the recording up, then we can just put the links in. And I do have another, let's see, can I put this up and it will show you? Like, so are you guys seeing this too, the artificial sweeteners? So like I had that one too that I found. And then there was one more. Was it this one? Oh, I can't get to it because of all of our pictures. So let's, we can go through this list really quick. So there's just your general sugars that are sucrose. And that's going to be in different names. So these are some of the different names that are in your ingredient lists. And then there's names you may not realize are sugar bases. So that they list this under the sciencey names for sugar. Dextrose, fructose is the fruit sugar, lactose is sugar in milk. I can't remember where maltose is from. Anybody who remembers their personal trainer certification? we talked about it there. Sucrose is just your basic sugar. Mm-hmm. So then you have the natural sugars, And so obviously those can be in your ingredient list. This artificial sweetener one is pretty light, so we can put up the other one, but I thought the sugar alcohol list was actually quite long, so I don't know if that's a decent size list of that. But so as we're getting through these, you'll want to look and see on your ingredient list what you have, and maybe you didn't realize it was sugar. Last week we had one, and I'm trying to think of what it was called. We had one that wasn't an obvious sugar.
I think it was in my drink, wasn't it?
Yes, and now I can't remember the name of it. Oh, there was I'm thinking of something different. I'm thinking of caffeine. See, this is where my brain's stalling. I'm thinking of guarana extract. That was another name for a caffeine. We were looking at something with caffeines. Sorry, bad example. reverse. Okay, so, and I'll put these lists, and we'll have lists from Bev in here. So let's talk a little bit about sugar and like what you've heard about having natural sugar versus artificial sweeteners, or let's just kind of start a discussion on what you know about sugar and what you should have or shouldn't have.
I've heard that artificial sugars act the same way in your body as real sugar. Is that true?
You want to talk on that, Beth?
Okay. All right. Well, so yes and no. So basically, so our bodies go through a sugar cycle once we're introduced to sugar, basically. And no matter what type of sugar, you will go through that cycle. It's basically a 4-part cycle. You eat the sugar, and like it might be a craving, or you've eaten it and you have like the crave, and then basically then your blood sugar levels spike. Dopamine is released into your brain, which then creates the addiction, which is where there's actually research that says that like if you have like brain mapping done while you're consuming sugars, it actually highlights the same regions as like cocaine, nicotine, and then there's like mass insulin that gets secreted into your bloodstream and into your blood sugar, and then your blood sugar drops. And so the insulin levels cause your body, like the high insulin levels can cause your body to like store fats and things like that. And then your body begins to crave the sugars again. And then the low blood sugar levels cause an increase in the appetite and increase in the cravings. And then you're back to 1 again, where you're craving it and you want to eat it. The thing is that depending upon what type of sugars you're consuming, whereas like natural sugars that you're consuming in fruits and vegetables and milks, they have, like, for instance, milk will have protein, and that protein helps with satiety, and then, or however you want to say, satiety. And then fruits and vegetables, they contain antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, and fiber. And so that actually like slows the process down. So it isn't quite as much of like that spike and then that hard drop. Whereas when you are consuming like refined sugars, there's generally not something there to help your body to not have that like fast drop. It goes up and then it goes down. And when it comes to non-caloric sweeteners, which are like the artificial sweeteners mainly, then a lot of times those are coupled with things that don't have a whole lot of, well, they're processed. They're put into processed foods that don't have a whole lot of that fiber, of the protein, of the other things that are going to slow that process down. So in essence, it doesn't, while yes, sugar, no matter what form, takes you on that same journey, where that sugar comes from really does matter. Does that make sense? Did I answer that so that you could understand it?
Yeah, no, I think that was great. And, I think I think what we miss is that when we have an artificial sugar, we think, oh, it's not caloric, right? So it won't have an effect. But you've still taken your brain on this trip of having something sweet and going through that feelings of having something sweet. And so then you haven't necessarily satisfied something too.
Correct. Yes. Because ultimately, I mean, there's a couple different reasons why we have the craving, whether it's we have a sugar addiction, which a lot of Americans do have a sugar addiction. If you look at how much sugar we consume on average, and then if you look at how much we are supposed to technically consume, and in reality, as a male, as a female, we can easily achieve those daily amounts in just regular whole foods. And a lot of us don't only eat whole foods. We consume other food sources that are processed. And so it is super easy for us to take in extra sugars. And then that leads to the sugar addictions, which then make us crave more, which goes into like the manufacturing side of things. So I don't want to go there yet, but yes. So yeah.
And I think it was fascinating. So in this podcast too, if sugar is something you want to learn more about, I highly recommend this podcast, because now I do have a history degree. So like, this is my jam, learning about the history of things. But it's one of the, like he talked about, as human beings, hunter gatherer, right? Like you would seek sweet things still then from the beginning of time, but they came in the form with other things, right? Like they came in whole foods, and you would use, like, you wanted to put on a little bit of fat, right? Because it was all about survival. So having that sugar also helped to put on a little bit of fat so that you could survive, during those times. And now we don't really have to survive getting to the grocery store, to aisle 10, right? To get the cookies. So that's something we can talk about in a little bit, but like, that is such a change in our, like, we have not evolved with how fast our food has evolved. For sure. And that was one more thing. I just really quick before so I don't forget this tip too. He talked about there's two sets of taste buds on your tongue as you're eating the sugar. And one has evolved a little bit, but the other one has not evolved to handle the artificial, the high fructose, these newer sugars that we have. And so it sends it into a tizzy. Like it's like an overload when you initially get that taste. And then boom, everything starts kind of going hyperactive with like, wow, that's really exciting stuff we just put in our mouth. And you literally can get a little bit of a sugar high, right? That's why we call, and that he talks about addiction in there, because you have cravings, you can get a high from it. You can lose control with it. You can feel compulsory around it. So there's a lot of things that really signal it toward addiction. And then some of the studies they've done with rats, Bev mentioned the cocaine, and they've done studies with rats where the rats actually left the cocaine to go to the sugar because they enjoyed the sugar most. And they would do more to get sugar than they would do to get cocaine. And they just, and it, like, in rats, it is definitely addiction. And I think it's pretty clear in humans, it's our addiction, right? Yeah. And the hardest part is, it is how we celebrate as humans, right? Like, where can you go to some kind of celebration gathering and there's no sugar? So that's what's really fascinating. It's like this, you're battling our societal norms to, feel better.
Well, and I mean, just what it does, it gives you that dopamine. And so it brings joy.
Yep.
It brings an artificial chemical created joy.
Yep.
So, so it makes sense why it kind of goes hand in hand. But yes.
So what are some other things that you've heard? Or here, let me look at the chat here, Kim. I see you put something there.
Yes.
You-
Often.
Right? We should have
All the time.
birthday veggie trays. Yeah, of course. That's how I celebrate every birthday. No, I
Nobody
celebrate
believe it.
the specific chocolate cake that comes from the bakery right over here, and it's the most delicious cake on the planet, and I have it every year for my birthday. So what are some other, I don't want to say misconceptions, but concepts that you have around sugar? Is like, you've heard one's better, you should do this, do that. Let's talk about those kinds of things.
I guess my question would be, can a sugar addiction truly be broken? Like, do you eventually stop craving sugar if you give it long enough? Not that I've ever given it long enough to really be able to answer that question for myself, but I would love to know, just because it feels like sugar is hiding in everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. When my daughter was in first grade, so forever ago, we had to do an elimination diet for a variety of reasons, but we had to eliminate sugar. And then it was a naturopath, and he was like, I mean, all sugar. So literally everything we purchased, black beans had sugar in it. I was appalled. I was like, what? How? Why? Like,
Yeah.
So we did it for those 30 days, and it was damn near impossible. I'm like, I don't know what to feed people when everywhere you look. So it kind of feels defeating in some way. You think you're grabbing something that's supposed to be good for you, and it's there's hidden sugar in it. So I just wonder, like, can that cycle be broken? And then are you just constantly looking for hidden sugar so as not to get roped back into it, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, my personal experience is yes, and there's two things that were critical for me in doing it. One, going to all real food sources, right? Like I cut out processed foods, and this was what I did when I was losing weight. And the second piece of it is, if I wanted something sweet, I had to make it from scratch. So it also gave me that kind of mental time to be like, do I really want to go through the process of an hour of making this to have it? So that kind of slowed my decision making, because I think everything's so readily available right now that it's really easy to grab it before you've even thought about it. But I also feel like sugar now for me. I still like this. I have the bevy right now, and it's sweet for me. And I have it once in a while. Like I usually have it on our calls and stuff, but it's not something I have daily, because I feel like the more I get into a daily habit of something with sugar, then the more I want other sugars, right? So I keep it pretty much to fruit, and then I'll have a piece of chocolate at night if I really want it. But even that's not a regular thing. But it's more of getting back to just regular whole foods and trying to satisfy myself, the hunger, with those foods, and then see how it goes. And it takes time. I mean, it's not like it's an immediate thing. And there's plenty of times where I'll be like, oh, I really want some cookies today. And I'll have a cookie. And if I have one, it's totally fine. But if I have two or even three, then I start feeling the sugar, and I'll get a little bit of a headache, or I'll feel super sluggish a couple hours later. And then I'm like, okay, whoop, that was too much. Like, so it's like mental note, that was too much because now I don't feel good anymore. And I am a focuser on feeling good. I don't even think that's a word, but like, that's how I really go with how I'm doing, is how am I feeling? How is my energy? Am I getting through my day without feeling sluggish? How am I just feeling in general?
If
Right.
you were going to go on an elimination diet where you had to cut out sugar for testing, wouldn't you have to cut out fruit too?
Yeah, you would if they included fructose as something you had to cut out. It really depends on what they're trying to eliminate, I would guess.
Mhm.
So my son, that's how I started on my journey with learning about sugar, was because of my son. So and that was 8 years ago. 8 years ago, we did an elimination, but it was, yeah. I mean, a naturopath. It was actually not a naturopath. I take that back. He's a GP, and he was a homeopath also. But yeah, so he recommended that, and we had also we eliminated a lot of other things too. But yeah, so I figured out which sugars which sweetening agents he could tolerate, which I didn't. I chose to not add in artificial sweeteners. I do not look at stevia as in real stevia, not stevia as in Truvia or stevia in the raw, or any of these other mixes that are sugar alcohols mixed with stevia or laced with stevia. I was very specific about, that it was only stevia. And because I helped cure my son's eczema that he had from like before he was 1 until he was 7. We'd done everything possible that we could possibly do for him externally. And he had already removed dairy, and it was down to sugar and gluten. But so I became very aware of like how to read the food labels, how to identify it. And the only sweetener that he could tolerate, he could tolerate most fruits in whole form. And then he could, but he couldn't tolerate pretty much anything else other than stevia. So yeah, I mean, and he can now tolerate like coconut sugar, date sugar, maple syrup. But back then he couldn't. His gut was in such a place of dysbiosis that it wasn't workable for him. It would send him into a flare. And so the longer that you are separated from it, the more control you have over everything. I mean, really the addiction, you can see it in yourself by as what Deanna was saying, the feelings that you're having, headaches are a lot of times headaches, aches in your joints. I mean, it's inflammation. Just think anything that's being caused by inflammation, that it can be sugar related. So, yeah.
I have noticed when you cut out carbs and sugar, after a number of days, even just 3 or 4, you don't really crave them. I think that's amazing.
Well, and I don't want to lump carbs in with sugar, because carbs are a totally different animal, right? And carbs are not bad.
Sorry, I was just going to say sugar isn't bad either when it's consumed in appropriate amounts for your body to be able to utilize and use for. But the problem is we're consuming more than what our body can and will ever use, and it's causing insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes and fatty liver disease that is normally associated with alcoholism. And you're seeing it in children because they're consuming way too much sugar. Just we're thinking, oh, it's not a big deal. You know, we ate
Like,
sugar
yeah,
when we were
think they'll burn
kids.
it off, right? Everything's about burning
Yeah.
it off, but it doesn't, that's not
Mhm.
it doesn't matter at
Yeah.
this point.
Yeah. Yeah. There's kiddos with all sorts of things. I mean, I'm seeing it more and more, and it just hurts my heart to see it. It's like, gosh, they don't even have a chance. It's like, it's not fair. So then you get me up on my soapbox about the manufacturers. So I just have to be quiet sometimes. I'm like, nope.
We'll
I
let
stop.
you get on that soapbox if you want to.
Well, so when it comes to manufacturers, the thing that drives me crazy. So when you're reading an ingredient label, you know, when you're looking at it, the top ingredient is what that item is most comprised of, and like by weight. So often people are like, why are there so many names for sugar? And while, yes, there are lots of different sources for sugar and things like that, but they break it apart on food labels because people, our consumers, have gotten smart and have started to look for sugar. And if they can make it seem like there isn't as much, then people are more prone to pick it up and purchase it because they're like, oh, well, this doesn't have sugar. It's not very high, which a lot of times you'll see things that say that it's no sugar. And if you look at the label, there is sugar in it. It's a sugar alcohol, and they're not calling it sugar, or it has an artificial sweetener in it, or, you know, that's why it's really important to read the label. But so when a label is written out and they're able to break apart the sugars by their different names, they're able to move where that is on the list further down the list. So if you were to take and put all the weights of all the sugars into one pile, it may be higher on the list. It may be the top thing on the list. But because they're broken apart into different names, it doesn't show up at the top of the list.
Yeah. And if you're not paying attention, either you're scanning it, right? Or just looking for sugar or common names, you know, then they'll use some of the less common names, and you might glaze over it and not realize that the sugar's there.
Right. And then, I mean, ultimately, you know, they just want us to buy more. So they don't care. They literally have scientists that create these foods that will make your mouth go, wah, and your brain go, huh, and you will start consuming it. And if you don't, you know, have it put away or set somewhere else, you will continue to go after it. It's kind of like the same thing with the potato chips, you know, the fats. And you know, it does something to us physically, mentally, that triggers us to want more, more, more. And then what do we do when we go through the grocery store? We buy more of it because we need more of it. So the manufacturers definitely know what they're doing, and they do not have our best interests at heart. They have their best interest, which is making more money.
Right.
And bringing us back to the shelf to keep buying more.
Yeah. And the fronts of the labels, I mean, we've talked about this, I don't know how many times on this call, right? The front of the label has a bunch of bullshit to just get you to put it in the cart. You absolutely can't even read that stuff. You got to go to the back, actually go to the ingredients, go to the nutrition label and decipher it. And it's funny because I can't remember, I think it was Autumn that had like a quick video about something like this. And she's like, nobody's addicted to broccoli.
Right. Right.
I don't know if that's good or bad. Maybe we need to make broccoli in a way that we want to consume it more. But it's clearly not trying to steer us in a way that it wants us to go, right? The broccoli industry has not, you know, laced it with something so that we now feel like we've got to have more broccoli.
Right.
I can't stop at one crown of broccoli. I need to have, 5 crowns today or whatever it is.
Right, exactly. Well, and if you look at a lot of one of the lines that just it drives me batty, it makes me so I can't handle it. Aldi has the fit and active line. And if you look at any of those products, their list is like a mile long. It's like, what science crap is this? Like, it's not even food. Like,
Yeah.
and it just drives me crazy because it's like you are literally marketing to people who are just trying to make themselves healthier, and you're preying on that and sending them back to, they're not going to lose anything. I mean, some of them are even going to gain, because especially if it's got artificial sweeteners in it, because a lot of times that makes you gain because it makes you crave more food. So,
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. And like the whole idea of juice cleanses drive me crazy. I mean, juicing in general is you're basically taking all the good stuff and getting rid of it, and you're just giving yourself the straight sugar. You mean, you might get a few vitamins in there, but you're going to be so hopped up on sugar that doesn't really matter.
you mean you don't just have just the celery on its own?
Right. No.
I've tried it. Didn't work for me.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So this says 0 sugar on it, but when you look at the back, it says 0 total sugar 0 in the ingredients. But the ingredients say alcohol from cane sugar as the second ingredient. So how would you know how much sugar is actually in this? And would you even know? They don't have to tell you, correct? Because it's technical.
Well, and there isn't caloric sugar in it, right? But you're getting the sugar alcohol, which still gives you the brain connection to the sugar.
Mhm.
So there isn't a calorie thing that they have to list. It's kind of like what we talked about a couple months ago with the tortillas and how the insoluble fiber is taken out of the carbs. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't have calories. So sugar alcohol doesn't have calories, but it still makes you go through that connection process to sugar.
Right.
So
Some people can have like effects from alcohol, sugar alcohol, right? I think we
I'm sorry.
talked
Yes.
last time. Yeah, like people can feel not great from them.
Yeah. Yeah. So the most common thing is digestive issues, like like diarrhea and things like that. But I mean, there's also like headaches, migraines, dizziness. I know personally growing up, like every time there was a certain gum that had I want to say aspartame. It had aspartame in it. And every time I would put that gum in my mouth, because I was a big gum chewer, like big time. And every time I would get a headache almost immediately. And so I would say I had a gum addiction. I just needed to always be chewing gum when I was in high school. I don't know why, it just was the thing. And so I would actually turn it down. But yeah, so that rashes, bloating, cramping, but yeah, a lot of the digestive issues. Now, like saccharin, it's shown to people to have like photosensitivity and tachycardia, actually.
Wow.
And yeah, some have even been linked to causing more issues, like they've been shown to cause like cancer cell growth or trigger cancer cell growth. But I think sugar in general has that.
Yeah.
So, but if you think about it, anything that's a chemical compound instead of something naturally occurring, your body's having to process that and do something with it. And if it's not naturally occurring, our bodies don't know what to do with it. And it's got to go somewhere. And hopefully it goes out, but you don't know.
So if this was from stevia leaf, would that be better for you than from cane sugar, or not really?
Well, so organic cane sugar is different than sugar, because organic cane sugar still has fiber and nutritional benefits, which is why there's a smidgen amount of organic cane sugar in Shakeology now. And when that was introduced into the shakes, Isabel and Darren talked about that, and about how where they get this, it actually provides a nutritional benefit. It's not just a sweetening agent. So if it's organic cane sugar, it's going to be better by far than just sugar, because brown sugar, like the refined sugars, they have been refined down so much that there's nothing left to them other than just sweetener. There's no benefits left, if that makes sense.
And he actually talks about it in the podcast on this too, because he talks about like all the things in sugar cane. It's practically a superfood. Like, it's amazing how many vitamins and minerals are in it. It has almost every B complex, and it has copper and like tons of fiber. And his wife, who grew up in Kenya, they'd like just chew on it, right? Well, you'd be getting all those things, but it's not just a quick hit, right? It's like, it would be like having a piece of fruit versus just having the fruit juice. And he talks about how when you refine it, you're taking the juice from it and then crystallizing it. So you literally are taking everything out except the sweetness from it.
And as for it being an alcohol, I don't know what the nutritional value would be at that point. I mean, because I don't know. I can't.
Because it says alcohol from cane sugar.
And I think, to answer your question too, I think because there's categories of whole stevia leaf as a sweetener, and then there's just stevia leaf, and then there's just stevia, and then stevia alcohol. So there's a lot of variations, and those are basically the refinement as you go down the line, kind of thing.
Right.
So my understanding is whole stevia leaf is your best alternate sweetener.
Correct.
Yeah.
Boy, those manufacturers are a bunch of liars.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, welcome to the system.
Buying another good, good for me or better for me than, but.
Right.
Bev or Deanna, can you guys speak to sucralose as a sugar sweetener replacement, and maybe just share your kind of thoughts or findings about that?
So when I researched it, so sucralose is 600 times sweeter than regular sugar.
600.
600 times. And it is derived, it's derived from sugar or sucrose, but it's chlorinated.
Sounds good.
And
Yummy.
so when developing it, it was found when they were developing a new insecticide compound.
Oh, great.
Sweet.
So I mean, so the common side effects of sucralose are migraines, dizziness, intestinal cramping, rashes, acne, headaches, bloating, and chest pains. So and the most common is Splenda sucralosis.
The reason I ask is there's a energy drink that
they know right away as soon as you say.
Oh yeah. At this point, I've just been mainlining, like, hook me up to an IV with this. Between that and Beachbody Energize, guys, I'm a barrel of fun. Beginning at 8 o'clock in the morning. and they use sucralose in it. And I was looking at the ingredients the other day and I was like, that's interesting. And I was thinking to myself, I have to ask Bev about this because I knew out of everyone I knew, you would know about it. Because one thing I've noticed is that when I drink it later on, like I'll get a headache and I'm like, I wonder if there's a correlation.
Yeah.
Obviously there's a correlation.
Yeah.
So yeah. There
Yeah.
we go.
And see, the other thing that's frustrating is that people will do this and they will have these symptoms come up and they're like, I don't know why. And it's like, and it's just, that's just so frustrating to like, it again brings me to like, it makes me sad that people are suffering from ailments that are 110% preventable if our food industry wouldn't be so dang sneaky. And so yeah.
Well, and we don't do a very good job of educating ourselves on food, right? Or assuming that food could cause that.
Mhm.
We let them tell us for sure. And we've gone away from slow food, scratch cooking for convenience.
Mhm.
And that is, we've driven the market to be like, we want this stuff faster and I want it ready now. And, that it's kind of a toss up, right? Because if we go back to just buying ingredients versus buying food already made, then that drives the system too.
Right.
But it is a catch, right? Because now we're addicted to some of the things that they provided us. So we don't want to stop them. Soda. I mean, like how many people here have had a soda issue? Like I totally had one.
When I was younger. Yeah. Yeah. When I was younger, for sure.
I mean, it's crazy.
I had a diet soda issue. I was raised on diet soda.
Yeah, my mom still does, and it has to be fountain Diet Coke. You can't give her a can of Diet Coke. That's not good enough. We got to go get the fountain. So I don't know what kind of stuff they're putting in the fountain.
Oh, the fountain
It's
is
different.
way better. I
It's
can
I
different.
know the fountain
Hey, they're
sodas
putting stuff in it, probably.
are really good
Fountain
because
sodas
they
are better.
yeah, the McDonald's soda is legit because they sell
Yeah.
it. It comes in a can, like in a canister and not the bag. That's what makes it so good.
So you're getting the metals in there too from the.
Naturally. Yeah. I mean, the good news is I don't know the last time I drank a soda, but I can tell you the last time I was drinking an energy drink at 2:00 this afternoon. So
Actually, so
When I was drinking Coca-Cola, like I didn't drink diet, but I definitely had a preference for 7-Eleven, for a paper cup, for the kind of ice, and for the kind of straw. Like it went out. Like I was an expert by that.
Yeah.
well, actually, McDonald's has that very specific. The diameter of their straw is very specific to heightening the
Experience.
whole experience.
Mhm.
Yes.
Totally
Yeah.
believe that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And what's crazy is that like there's scientists that are getting paid to figure this out.
Yeah.
Like
He's solving other issues, but we're solving
like-
how to sell more cereal and how to,
right.
sell
Like,
more
it's
Coke.
just like, oh.
$1 on how to market
But
shit.
on the flip side of that, I have my daughter's father who would drink at least a liter of Coke a day, is 60 years old and just suffered a major stroke from drinking so much. I mean, they're not going to put on his papers that that's what caused the stroke, but just, everything that comes with it. The sugar, the sodium, he just, blood pressure just got way and had a major stroke. And that's what he has done for many, many, many years. That's all he drank.
Yeah. I'm sorry,
So
Joy, that she's having to deal with that.
She only knows part of it.
Yeah.
He doesn't see him very often, but we're working on it.
And it's hard too, because I think we try to balance this YOLO thing, right? You only live once. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna have my soda for now. I'll stop when it's a problem, or whatever it is that we're having that we're just avoiding.
Yeah.
Giving up. And
That bowl of ice cream.
right.
Second serving.
Oh,
Yeah.
ice cream's just a whole
I
other
know.
thing.
What?
Ice cream's a whole nother thing.
Oh,
Well,
that's
first of all,
my-
yeah, I love ice cream. I
so
do.
don't I.
Yeah.
And the
I still got to make the
chocolatier, the
cauliflower
better.
one. I still haven't made the cauliflower one yet. I
You
need.
are missing out.
I know. I don't have the cashews. Well, I have salted cashews, and I'm like, should I just do it with the salted?
Yeah, rinse it
I'll
off.
figure it out.
Wash them off. Wash them
I'll do
off
it.
and soak them. Wash them off and then
Yeah.
soak them. Rinse them good. Oh yeah, you just go
Okay,
for
I've
it.
got everything else, and I'm like, oh, and then I got to go
Yeah.
get cashews.
You can
Oh,
make the
yeah.
salted caramel ice cream with the salted cashews.
Right? That's what I thought sounded good too, to have a little salt
You
in
could
it.
just add a little if you need
Yeah.
it. Because
Yeah.
otherwise it might be wonky. Like it might be too salty if you keep it. And the recipe was a fix one.
Yeah.
It was in one of the, if you look in actually now I think it's in the regular recipes.
I think so too. Yeah. And it's a green and a blue.
Yeah. No purple, no yellow. It's like, oh, it's a match made in heaven.
Everything's blue. Everything's blue.
I know.
Blue or yellow, blue or
I
yellow.
know. I know.
You
Yeah.
got to start enjoying those greens and purples and all
I'm
the
sure you know just by looking at it. I'm sure it doesn't.
No, you don't. You can't even taste cauliflower in it. It is like
Really?
so decadent. It's yes. I mean, oh yeah. My kids absolutely love it when I make it. They're like, oh yeah.
Really?
But I will say that like when you make it, when you freeze it, because you blend it up and then you put it in the freezer, you need to take it out like a half an hour before you're wanting to like actually
right. Because it's
start
hard
digging it.
too much,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets really hard. It gets
Yeah.
really hard. But then it's so creamy. So creamy.
All right,
So.
Kim, you let us know. Have you found it? Because I posted it. I think I posted it last week, didn't I? Under our recording, maybe, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago. I can't remember now.
Okay, I will look. I didn't realize it was there.
Yeah, or just go into BOD and search cauliflower ice cream, and it'll be there.
So good.
I love the search bar now in BOD. It's working so good.
Did you guys see the recipe that Autumn posted today about the healthy bomb pops?
I put it in the 2021 group.
Okay, perfect.
Yep. So we only have a few minutes left too. Are there other like sugar questions you have? And then we can kind of decide if next week we want to continue talking about, or maybe we go into labels next week, or, or we can continue kind of the conversation, or maybe we're done for a little while and we can revisit sugar again in a little bit.
I do have a question. So a lot of the Fixate recipes, Autumn uses pure maple syrup, like the bomb pops. Obviously it's pure. Is that better to use than like stevia leaf, or is it the same? Does your body deal with it the same? I usually don't put the maple syrup in because usually whatever I'm making is sweet enough for me, but I'm just curious.
Well, so maple syrup would have calories, and it would also it could have some nutritional benefits depending upon, I guess, your quality of maple syrup that you're using. I usually get an organic grade one, whereas stevia is not going to have any caloric content to it. So, it does. Technically stevia leaf, I can't remember off the top of my head right now what benefits it does have necessarily, but I think I know personally from a cooking and baking experience, making things with whole stevia leaf or whole stevia leaf extract, it was a lot more challenging to really make it palatable past people that don't consume regular sugars.
Yeah.
What's
Because
the difference between that and using like an agave? Because some people are like, oh, well, if you don't have maple syrup, you can sub in agave.
agave has become very,
Yeah.
I don't know what the word is, not
Popular?
agave. No, agave has become, I I don't know what it's not like over farmed, but it's become less nutritionally valuable than what it initially was because of, I feel like it's gotten more like it's more processed than what it was initially.
Right. And I thought it had a high glycemic index.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's as good a bang for your buck as it used as it once was touted. To me, it's kind of like bamboo fabric.
Right.
To make bamboo into fabric, it has to go through a million wash cycles, and it's like harder on the earth than just getting cotton fabric.
Yeah. I think there's a list, and I think like that was, I can't remember which book it was in, but it was like if you had choices, that was the bottom before you went anywhere else. So
I would go with coconut sugar. Coconut sugar is really good. It's a better glycemic. It has, if you're doing organic coconut sugar, which I mean, you can get organic coconut sugar from Target, and you can use it like it's brown sugar or like it's regular sugar. You can sub it 1-to-1 in a recipe, and it's really good. I mean, unless you're like somebody that is like, oh, I cannot stand the flavor of coconut at all, chances are
that's
you're
not
gonna
Lily.
be fine.
Lily loves coconut.
Yeah.
I do cook with coconut sugar.
Yeah. So
And if you want to get maple syrup, like I get ours at Costco and it's organic, and it's like the best price I've seen around. I think it's usually $10.99 for a pretty good sized jug.
yeah, we get ours from Sam's.
I
So
put mine in my coffee every morning. That's how I sweeten my coffee. I like a little bit of cream and a little bit of maple syrup.
Really? I've never tried maple syrup in my coffee.
I love maple syrup. I just love it. I could just drink it.
So can you put coconut sugar in like your coffee in the morning instead of stevia leaf?
Yeah.
Really?
yeah, it doesn't.
And on the plan, you get a teaspoon essentially. On the substitutes and freebies section, it talks about how you can sweeten your coffee with up to a teaspoon of some kind of sweetener, and she lists the sweeteners that she considers part of the plan.
Yeah.
So
It might not dissolve as nicely as what you would like it to.
sorry,
That would be the only thing that you would possibly run into.
animals fighting.
Beverly, how do you use the real stevia leaf? You get just real stevia leaves?
So I thought I shared it in a previous one. What I get, so we order ground stevia leaf
Until I'm done.
off of Amazon. That's where I get it. But yeah, so we get like a bag from I think it's from Frontier. I like Frontier for spices and herbs.
Yeah, they have good spices.
Yeah.
Because I had grown it one time, but I didn't know what to do with it.
We'll dry it or just chop it up. But yeah, I mean, it's so, yeah, you can just take the leaves off and dry them and then turn them into a powder. And then you have like a powder, or
So you don't just take the leaves and put them in your tea or something. That doesn't sweeten.
you can.
Oh,
You could.
I know people that do that.
Probably because I do that with mint leaves. I'm sure you could do that with a.
Yeah, I
on
do
some
it with mint.
Yeah. I mean, you probably could just stick it in there and let it marry a little bit. It probably would do that. I just personally I have no experience for that. I had somebody give me seeds for it like forever ago. And I'm like, what am I going to do? My cat eats plants. My cats at that time did eat plants. So there was no way I was going to grow stevia in my house.
Deanna, do you have a name for the dog?
We don't yet. My son just got back from camping. He's been gone for a few days, so I wanted to wait for him to be back to pick it. So I don't know. So far, nothing's like jumping out at me. I gotta go
Really
through the list
pretty.
of what everybody suggested.
She's really pretty. Pick her. Let us see her face.
Well, she's
She's so
she's
cute.
like part lab boxer mix, and
Oh,
we'll see how big she gets. They think she'll be pretty small, so
she's adorable.
hopefully she fits on my paddleboard well.
Trainer young.
Right?
Do-
I gotta order the life jacket.
Yeah, Duke was just knocking me over. It wasn't working.
I believe it. Yeah. Well, he's a pretty big boy too. I mean, Duck was like 94 pounds.
Oh, wow.
So.
Oh, Doc. I remember Doc.
Yeah, my good boy. He was in all my workout videos like in 2017. It's like I must have filmed every video with him. It's so funny. All right, you guys. So we're at 6 already. So we can continue on to sugar next week. If you want to, we can talk about if we want to listen to the podcast too, I'll put it in there and then we can talk about things we hear from that too. And maybe next week we go through bring your ingredient list or maybe your favorite treat or sweet or something that you like to have. Let's bring that and we can talk about the ingredients and.
Oh, there's not enough time for that. That's why I'm here.
Exactly. We can see if we can find some hidden sugars in there or what's
the
happening.
theme for tomorrow for the
It is
clothes?
red, white, and blue. Red, white, and
Oh,
blue
of
for everybody
course.
in your sweaty selfies.
Okay.
I got to figure out what I'm wearing. Yeah.
Hey, Beverly, can you send on the name of the sugar you take, the Frontier one?
Oh, the ground stevia leaf, the ground stevia leaf. Okay. You want me to put that right now or you want me to put it in where?
In the Beachbody bod?
Oh, in the group?
Yeah.
You can message me, Beverly, and I can add
Okay.
it.
Okay, cool.
Thank
do that.
you.
And then,
No problem.
then I'll drop the podcast in and we'll put Beverly's blog posts in too. They'll have artificial sugars and regular sugar names and whatever else you've written about that you want to educate us on. You can add.
Yeah, the regular sugar names. I missed that part because I was switching over my computer. I could use that.
Yeah. And I'll post the one I had. I don't think it's super comprehensive, but at least get us started. So.
Okay.
Well, good. And I don't have my phone out here. I ran out here. So if someone wants to take a picture.
Let's take a picture.
Lily's got it.
Okay.
She's got it down now.
Well, we'll see. All right, it's gonna flash in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay.
All
There we
right.
go. It's like 5 and then delayed. I don't know why.
It gets you ready.
Just keep smiling, keep looking.
All right, you guys. And any other things you want to talk about in coming weeks, just feel free to let me know.
Remember, we're not doing a podcast or a nutrition call the week of Summit.
Right.
So what is that
So
then?
we'll have next week. That'll be the, what is that?
And the meal
8th?
prep.
That'll be the 8th.
And
The meal prep is the 11th. So that'll start going in the group.
Okay.
And then we won't have a nutrition call that next week because we'll all be watching Coach Summit videos about new products and everything coming up for Beachbody. It's going to be really exciting because I mean, like just the live workouts alone is going to be amazing. The fact that you can project yourself working out with the trainer is like mind blowing. And Lily gets to
Do you
work
know
out
what you're doing yet?
at Summit. What'd you say,
Can't wait.
Becky?
Do you know what you're doing yet, Lily?
No, I find out on Tuesday. I can't.
God,
I know. All the weight. Like, come on. They sent me
they're
the-
not even like giving you any heads up. It's like you might be on screen the very next day.
Wait, you start picking out your workout gear now because you're gonna be on screen and we're all gonna be like filming it and being like, we know her.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't know. There's so many different workouts that they
Yeah, there are a lot.
so I
Yeah.
don't have any idea.
Are
So I'm
there?
hoping that they'll choose the Moala one because I really want to try that one.
Well, I say that and it's because Saturday's listed out with all of them. So I don't know if there's like, I wonder if they'll do different people for different trainers on Saturday to be able to get more people in on the video.
My understanding is yes, there's a special workout on Tuesday night with Sean T if you registered early before I think the 18th. And then there's the workout on Wednesday, workout on Thursday, and then I want to say there's a couple workouts on Friday maybe, or 2 workouts on Friday, and
I
then
thought Friday was the super workout.
oh
Friday.
yeah, right. I'm
yeah.
sorry, it is super, so it's a whole bunch. And it seems like from if you guys have been following the super trainers, it seems like they're recording some workouts together. Like, and while
Yes.
at least we're doing something today, bar-ish, and so seems like there's been a lot of working out together between the different trainers. So it's interesting to see what they come up with for Summit Week. So.
And a lot of those summit workouts will be in BOD temporarily, if not permanently. So if you're not a coach, you can totally still do the workouts, which is totally fun because I don't know, they're always great. So we'll make sure we post those in the groups too, like how to find it, where they are, so that you can do those workouts too.
Yes, Kim, you need to take that off.
What?
Yeah, take Friday off.
Yeah.
Today you're going to be late.
Yeah, because Friday, is the super workout. I'm glad that they have it from 9 to 10:30 Central Standard Time. That makes me happy. It's
Yeah,
not like
to get up early.
it's not 5 a.m.
You got to get up early, Deanna.
I know. I'll probably already be up with the dog.
It's not that bad. It's 7, right?
Yeah, that's still a little early for me. I'm still adjusting to my coffee at that point, thinking
but if
about what I'm going to do for the day.
Yeah, but if you were at Summit, you would be up at that time.
I'd almost be done with the workout by 7.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that. It depends on where we are in the on the map.
Yeah.
Because they usually start at 7.
And we get to find out where we're going to be next year together.
I can't wait.
Yeah, somebody said that apparently Autumn was born in Ohio.
She is.
She went to high school in St. Louis and was in dance. I think she was at Webster.
She
St. Louis.
vacations a lot in Miami. I'm hoping for Miami.
I know. I'm up for Miami. Marianne is like, forget it. I'm not going to be there anymore.
No worries. I'll be back. Don't worry.
All right, you guys, I better get off here. All right, so we'll see you next week, and red, white, and blue tomorrow. See your sweaty selfies.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
See you later.
Bye.